I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. What really happened at the Pelosi home on this past weekend with the so-called David Papape, who, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who broke into the home of Nancy and Paul Pelosi out in San Francisco, California, and hit the man and hit Mr. Pelosi in the head with a hammer. Now that's the home right there. I have several questions, and I want to be able to try to discover the answer to them. I know there's been a lot of bantering going back and forth, even on Twitter. Elon Musk, who's just purchased Twitter, put out what many people are saying an unseemly and an untoward and unprofessional tweet indicating that there's some sort of love twist going on between this assailant and this assaulter of Mr. Pelosi. And that's why all that happened in the middle of the night, the way it was. I don't know if I agree with all that. I mean, potentially, I don't necessarily have, well, at any rate, and there's a lot of people are laughing at it, making jokes at it. The woman who's running, named Lake, who's running for governor of the state of Arizona, was making fun of it. I'm not sure, and Trump has pulled up. Don Jr.'s posted up a pair of underwear and a hammer on the underwear. I don't know if I want to go that far, but I do want to try. Something about this just doesn't seem right to me. First of all, it was stated that he didn't have any, Nancy or House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her husband Paul, and that big house they have out there, they have in San Francisco, they have an elevator, but they don't have any kind of security alarms. That doesn't make very much sense to me. Anyway, I'm going to let you hear what the district attorney said about charging the assailant, and then I'm going to come back. This is really a puzzling issue to me. Something about this, what they say in North Carolina, something in the wash ain't clean. And the wash is supposed to clean everything, but something ain't clean. But let's listen to the district attorney give her listing of charges against the assailant.
I am here today to formally announce charges against Mr. David DePape in connection with the violent attack on Mr. Pelosi. The charges that we are filing today include attempted murder, residential burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, false imprisonment of an elder, as well as threats to a public official and their family. Mr. DePape specifically targeted the Pelosi home to confront Speaker Pelosi. He forced his way into the home through a rear glass door by breaking that glass. The defendant made his way upstairs to the second floor of the home, locating Mr. Pelosi in his bed sleeping. He woke him up, confronting him about the whereabouts of Speaker Pelosi. The defendant, realizing that Mr. Pelosi had called
Now, this doesn't make sense to me. I mean, he broke into the house. There's no alarms, no security system, no ADT, no whatever it is, no ring, none of that on this expensive house on a woman who's third in line to be president. There's no security. That doesn't, even if you got the CIA or the Homeland Security or the Capitol Hill Police or the San Francisco Police or whoever that's with her when she does come to San Francisco, but for the house, what about when they leave? They don't want burglars breaking in and the security alarm or face or ring time or whatever, ADT, they don't have anything on that house? I find it hard to believe. I find that hard, almost impossible to believe. So he breaks a glass, right? I guess he uses a hammer. That's what they say. He breaks a glass and sticks his hand in and opens the door. Meanwhile, Paul Pelosi, she said, was upstairs sleeping. He comes in after breaking the glass. Nobody heard it. Nobody saw anything. And he goes upstairs. I guess he'd been in the house, maybe went to the kitchen, made himself a bologna sandwich and had a glass of orange juice. Then decided, well, where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? He's sitting in the kitchen. So then decided he goes, I don't know he did all of that. But he goes upstairs, and Paul is in the bed asleep. You come in my bedroom, I'm going to wake up. I mean, I start hearing footprints. And this guy doesn't look like some master thief, can walk around silently. I mean, he must have been making a whole lot of noise. He didn't know the layout of the house. Something about this ain't right. Something about this, it just isn't right. So he wakes Paul Pelosi up, telling him to get up, and Pelosi is surprised. This is strange. I have heard a whole lot of stuff in my day. This don't make no sense at all. It just don't make it. Maybe it happened the way it happened, but I tell you, I got my grave suspicion. Go ahead, Ms. India. Let's listen more to this district attorney here from out there in San Francisco.
911 took Mr. Pelosi downstairs near the front door of the residence. 2 police officers arrived at the front door 2 minutes after that 911 call. When that door was opened, the defendant was holding his hammer, which Mr. Pelosi appeared to be attempting to control by holding a portion of that hammer.
All right, so now Mr. Pelosi is in his boxer underwear and some sort of sleeping shirt, I don't know, pajama shirt maybe. So they go downstairs together, right? You're going to hear, if not in this segment that you've probably heard, that Mr. Pelosi, Paul Pelosi rather, was able to sneak away. Now the house has an elevator but doesn't have a security system. In the elevator there's a telephone but there's no security system. So he says, I got to go to the bathroom, right? So Paul Pelosi says, pardon me, the Pepe, I got to go to the bathroom, got to use the John, right? So he says, okay, go ahead. So the Pepe stands there holding the hammer while Paul Pelosi goes in the bathroom and makes a call to 911, right? Then he comes back out and says, okay, let's start fighting again. This don't make no sense. So they call the police. The police comes. And according to what I've heard, that Paul Pelosi opens the front door to the house so the police can come in. All right, let's take it from there. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
The defendant then pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently struck him in the top of his head.
All right, now that's another problem. Violently struck him in the top of his head. I mean, this guy, Paul Pelosi, is pretty tall, look like to me. The top of his head? This guy, the Pape, looks like he might be short. I don't know what his height is, but to hit somebody, you got to reach up and then top him in the. I don't know how do you do. Maybe hit him in the forehead, hit him in the mouth, hit him in the neck or something, hit him in the chest. But in the top of his head, the top, there's something about this ain't right. I don't know what it is. I'm not accusing anybody of lying. I just can't find the truth right now. I'm looking for it. I'm like Charlie Chan in Boston Blackie. I'm looking for the truth. Anyway, I think Sergeant Joe Friday was in Los Angeles. I think we need to call up Sergeant Joe Friday rather than this woman. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
The police then immediately apprehended the defendant.
Oh, hold it. That's another thing. When in the last segment, when the police got to the house, the door, Paul Pelosi opened the door. They went back and started holding the hammer again with the guy. And then, so the police said, drop the hammer. And now I have to tell you. So I said, well, let me finish this. Paul Pelosi takes his hand off the hammer because both of them were holding onto the hammer, right? Right, both holding. So the police said, drop the hammer. So Paul Pelosi steps back. That's when the Pape hits him in the head with the hammer. Now, I have to tell you this. Because you need to know. Had that been a Hamite brother, had that been one of the boys with a hammer, getting ready to swing on somebody with a hammer, and the police did that, that would have been the last swing he would have done. There'd be some sad singing and some coffee drinking and the DePape family. Those police, had that boy been, and I just ain't racist, just the truth. Just the truth. I'm telling you, man, I'm just the truth. I ain't trying to be racist, get anybody upset or anything. But had that been a black man with a hammer, getting ready to swing in a rich neighborhood like that with a hammer in the middle of the night, I'm telling you, the police would have shot Paul Pelosi. I'm telling you. Whoa, they look through that glass window and see those two men, they don't care who's what. Those police would have shot both of them and then asked questions later, had a trial maybe. And definitely, the Pape would not have got a chance. But that hammer in his head, those police would have emptied their Glock 9s in him and then went and reloaded. And you know it's true. Now, come on now. You know it's true. You know, this don't make no sense. What I would want to know, I think the chief of police out there in San Francisco, some guy named Scott, right? I think they ought to bring charges against the police department. For the police officers did not act fast enough to stop that DePape boy from hitting Paul Pelosi in the head with a hammer. They said, drop the hammer. He didn't drop it, he swung it. I'm telling you, man, they would have busted a cap on him had that boy been black. But, you know, that haven't been said. You know, the police department stood there and watched him swing on it, you know. Anyway, go ahead, Mr. Engineer. This don't make no sense to me. I've been trying to figure it out for days. I still haven't figured it out. So I think I had to ask you. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer, show us some more.
What we also have learned is that the defendant brought to the location of the Pelosi residence a second hammer, as well as zip ties, rope, and a roll of tape.
Always good to have a second hammer.
What is clear based on the evidence that we have thus far is that this house and the speaker
Go ahead, Ms.
herself were specifically targets of the defendant.
Definitively say now this was obviously politically motivated?
Yes, it appears as though this was based on his statements and comments that were made in that house during his encounter with Mr. Pelosi, that this was politically motivated.
The evidence suggests we would go as far to say it was an assassination attempt.
What I will say is that he was looking for the speaker at the time that he entered the home. Of course, the federal affidavit contains a bit more information about other things that motivations that he's expressed, but he certainly did enact what we believe is an attempt to murder her.
All right, so now it is said that the man was walking through the house asking, where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Then, in a statement, I think, in a confession that the FBI has, because they put charges against him as well, that he has stated that he was asking, where's Nancy? And he was going to take Nancy as hostage. And he was going to keep her as hostage. And and ask her some questions. And if she would tell him the truth, I'm not sure what truth he was looking for, he's going to let her go. But if she lied to him, the Pape said he was going to bust open her kneecaps. I guess that's why I had two hammers. And the reason why I want to break her kneecaps is so she'd have to be wheeled in to Congress and everybody will see the consequences to being Nancy Pelosi or being on the left or whatever. I don't know what this man was thinking. But none of this stuff makes sense to me. A lot of people out there saying that the Pape and this Paul Pelosi guy were lovers. I don't know that to be true. And I'm not here spreading any disinformation. I'm saying everybody knows that's what's out there on the algorithm. That's what's out there on all these other social media platforms. I think even Trump or somebody, or this guy, Elon Musk or Don Trump or somebody, they've been spreading it around that perhaps this was a love twist that ended up with a hammer banging. I mean, I don't know. But this don't make no sense to me. It does not make any sense to me, number one, that they don't have some sort of electrical, I mean, just even a ring. I mean, you get a ring. You know, you see them on television all the time, right? You put it, it's a private, you don't have to have it connected to something, it'll notify the police officer that somebody's on your front porch. It costs you $9.99 a month. They don't have that. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is third up. She's a big-time woman. She got a private jet from the government that y'all pay for. That big old house, 3 stories, with an elevator and no ring system. That don't make no sense. That's the first thing. The other thing is I think somebody's lying. I don't know who it is telling the lie, but I think somebody's lying. You know, yeah, okay. All right. I don't want to go down that road about it being, a love thing. And I don't. But he comes on a hammer? I mean, didn't Pelosi have a gun? I mean, listen, don't you have a gun in that house, man? I mean, and he let him go to the bathroom. First, he wouldn't let him go to the elevator. I don't know why. And as I stated earlier, and I don't want to repeat myself too many times, I will repeat myself. He breaks into the house, breaks that glass, nobody wakes up. He comes in, I don't know if he goes to the kitchen and fixes himself a sandwich, a cup of coffee or something. Then he wanders upstairs and Pelosi's in bed. He has to wake him up. He had to wake Paul Pelosi up. He had to shake him. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul, wake the hell up. I mean, it don't make no sense to me. Maybe it happened just the way they said it happened. I don't know. It looks like a nice house. Got a lot of glass. That's another thing, too. All those glass windows. I guess that's a nice interest and everything. But hey, Nancy, you got to get some protection, girl. No, gone. Somebody need to talk to her. All right, everybody, that's my take. If I find out any more information about this, you'll be the first to find out. You'll be the first to know. But this thing don't make no sense to me at all. Sound like one of the lies I told when I was in court.